Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
World.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the wildest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they transpired today? I'm Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm Sadaf Hassan, and this week is another hot off the press. You know the drill. Today we're going to run through the biggest headlines owning the news over the last couple of weeks. Sarah, do you want to take it away?
All right. So this is very exciting. So this one's a future headline. By the time you hear this episode, because we're recording early, the Oscars will have happened. Did Sinners win Best Picture? Did one battle after another emerge victorious? Was there a complete upset? We will soon know. And you already do, you future people. Also,
I'm jealous.
In a surprise upset, Paramount has officially purchased Warner's Discovery. So the second richest man alive won his feud with Netflix. That was a Goliath versus Goliath moment. It was really hard to know exactly who to cheer for in that one. Did you have a side?
No, Sarah. Rich man versus rich man. I just don't want a monopoly. I'm terrified of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in happy news, this is some good news. On March 10th,
yes,
it was announced that the goddess Catherine Hahn will portray Mother Gothel in the live-action version of Tangled. And as a parent who will have to see this movie in theaters and then watch it many, many times at home, I co-sign this casting. It's amazing. I think she's going to just be pitch perfect, superb.
I love Catherine Hahn. I want her in absolutely everything. I'm with you. I don't even have a child, and I'm thrilled. Like, I will be watching her again and again and again. She needs to play every wacky, kind of mentally damaged character out there.
She's fantastic. I adore her. One of my favorite facts about her is she plays a really bit part in Girls, and that character named her daughter Beatrix, and I have a daughter named Beatrix.
I love that. Oh, I love that, Sarah. Actually, that would be interesting to have Catherine play you in a movie. I'd be into that.
I'm not that cool.
I'd love to
but
see
that's
it.
the kindest thing you've ever said to me. It's so
You're
kind.
so welcome. I stand by it. I would love to see it.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. In other news, Sabrina Carpenter has been seen out and about with a mystery man who reportedly wears a man bun. This is according to Dumois. Okay. And
you know what, Sarah? I don't mind a man bun, but I also have very questionable taste in men, so don't listen to me.
I'm fine with the man bun. It's just this is the only piece of information we have about the man, which is peculiar. It just sounds like besides this, he's very nondescript.
It's kind of hilarious. I also want to say it feels anachronistic because Sabrina's whole look is like pinup girl 50s, 60s. Man bun feels very 90s OOs, too contemporary for her. I don't like it.
I don't know how well it works, but then again, it's a secret boyfriend, right? We've all had
true.
a secret boyfriend where you're like, I'm attracted to you, but I want people to know who you are. I don't want anyone to know we're dating. So it could be that situation.
I feel like she kept her last Irish boy in the closet as well, and maybe that was for the best, as we later learned.
Yeah, exactly. I like the way Sabrina Carpenter doesn't go public immediately, right? I like the way she just susses people out. I think that's smart. I think that's shrewd. She should write a dating advice manual. I would read it.
I mean, her music is like that. I also get the sense she dates or hooks up with people she's not proud of, which I can also relate a lot to and makes her even more fascinating and relatable to me.
That's just called being a woman who dates men, right? That's just,
yes!
If you're a woman who dates men, you're going to have some people you're not proud of that you dated, even while you're dating them. And I mean, I'm sad to say that because you probably shouldn't be ashamed of anyone you're dating, but straight men are a different category, especially if you're dating white straight men. And there's one or two white straight men that I found attractive, but even while I was dating them, I was reluctant to tell my friends about them. There was one guy I dated at one point where even my friends were like, listen, Sarah, you showed us the picture. He's hot, so we get it. But I will be disappointed in you if you're dating him 3 months from now. Yeah, so we've all been there, Sabrina.
I get it. I have
So
been there. Listen, dating men, period, is a humiliation ritual in 2026. So absolutely, I agree. So I like her approach. We approve, Sabrina.
exactly. It's fine. It's fine. No one is mad at you for hiding this man. It's okay. Okay, and another thing, so Zendaya and Tom Holland secretly maybe got married because she was spotted at a
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton event wearing a wedding ring on the wedding ring finger. There are rumors that they got
Mhm.
married in Lake Como in winter, which I think would be very chic. It's off season, so maybe there wouldn't be that many paparazzi there. What do you think about this? Why do you think that they went the low key way? And do you think they actually did? Do you think they're married?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they are because she has been wearing a ring. And even when they got engaged, like that seemed to happen very low key in a very low key way. So good for them. I'm a little jealous because I wanted to see what she's wearing. I would have loved to see photos, which maybe they'll release at some point. But here's what I will say, I am impressed at the way that they kept the lid very tight on this because it's so rare. I feel like when celebrities as A-list as these two get away with hiding their wedding, and maybe, like, sometimes you'll get a few weird paparazzi shots from a distance, or you'll, like, get the wedding gown, something. These 2, we didn't even get the tiniest hint of what was happening. I'm amazed. I hope they did pull it off, but again, I'm envious. I just wanna know what everyone was wearing. I wanna know what it looks like. I want visuals, but I'm happy for them. 'Em. They're so cute.
They are cute, and they're also cute in, like, a very basic way, and I don't mean their style,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, they got engaged on New Year's Eve, they've been engaged for over a year, so if they did get married, it's just so regular. It's just so normal and grounded and down to earth. I feel like they probably are married, I feel like they probably did it without telling us. I could see the pictures being released as an exclusive to Vogue at some point
Yeah.
if one of them
Same.
does a Vogue cover, because either one really could do a Vogue cover at some point. They're both pretty fashionable, but
God, they could do one
oh my
together.
god,
Oh,
"Be Still My Heart." That would
I
be
would love
amazing.
that.
But here's
Oh.
what's interesting. If a couple as famous as these 2 can have a secret wedding, anytime celebrities tell you that they hate the paparazzi and they invade their privacy, you gotta wonder, are you trying to be caught?
Oh, that's so interesting. I do think that happens a lot of the time. In fact, I think it happens most of the time.
Mhm.
That's why I'm fascinated by these 2 because they actually seem to want privacy in a very legitimate
Yes.
way. I've mentioned so many times, oddly, on the podcast that that's what Demi Moore and Bruce Willis did back in the day. They moved to Idaho to get away from paparazzi. Like, that's commitment.
Yeah.
That's like, we really want to be hidden. And I wonder if these 2, when they get to the baby stage, if they'll do something like that. We'll see. But I also want to go back to what you were saying about them being regular. It's so true. Like, for 2 people who are on red carpets in blockbuster movies, they feel so normal. Like, I don't know what it is. Their love also just feels so their age. Like, they just feel very age appropriate in every way. I love them. I love them.
They're very cute together. I hope it lasts. And I mean, I'm not saying that in a threatening way, saying like, I don't think it will. I hope it lasts. I hope it lasts. And if they did get divorced, I think it would be in a very normal, basic, we grew apart way, the way regular people get divorced.
Yeah, although knock on wood, I hope.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't.
Do you remember she went through a few people before she went back to Tom, which I also find very romantic, like, that they were meant to be in that way, like, she dated Jacob Elordi. I don't know if anyone remembers, but
I mean, yeah, sometimes you just got to date the most handsome guy in the room to know that your first boyfriend was the right one, right? Sometimes you got to sow
I
those
think
wild
Tom
oats.
is more handsome, dare I say. Although he also looks very
They're
young, so I
both
feel
really
inappropriate saying that.
handsome, right? They're
Yeah,
both,
they are,
but
they are.
handsome with
She's
different
got good
energy.
taste.
I think it's like Jacob Elordi has fuckboy
Totally.
energy, right? And so sometimes you got to date the
Yeah,
guy with that energy just to see what it's like, just to see what it's like, right? You got to experiment. Yes, they're
it's
both
fun.
gorgeous. I mean, but so is she, right? So, I mean, I don't think she's
God,
going to date a
stunning.
non-beautiful person. She doesn't have to.
No, she doesn't have to. Congrats, Zendaya, we love this for you.
Congrats, Zendaya. Congratulations on your wedding to another beautiful human. It's great. We hope you have beautiful babies. If you want, I'm not forcing you to have children if you don't want them, but it seems like Tom's pretty keen and wants to be like your stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. I think she does, and I believe she's talked about wanting children. So, God, and they'll be gorgeous children, God knows.
And also, if you have like a handsome man being your stay-at-home dad, like have 8 babies.
I
Like who
know. Oh,
sounds
seriously.
great.
They can also manage it, like, as people with their kinds of schedules, like, she can just go do a franchise or a movie for however many years, and I know Tom will be like, "I'll stay home," and then we'll pick up a franchise 5 years later.
Well, absolutely. She can just
Great.
she's famous enough now that she can say, I'm only going to do things that film in London because that seems to be where they're living, which is a great
think so,
choice.
yeah.
Great choice. And I think they'll have a good life. I mean, she's going to be like, okay, obviously very different type of celebrity, but the Gwyneth Paltrow of her era. Every generation has a celebrity who moves to London when they get married. And this is Zendaya. She's Gen Z Gwyneth Paltrow. She will start her British court and she will create her friend group. Remember when Gwyneth Paltrow was really big friends with, a lot of different London personalities? This is Zendaya's moment.
I love that thought. That's such an interesting comparison. Oh my gosh. And I know you and some other folks feel like Gwyneth is not the best actress. Here, you guys are going to hate me for this comment, but I don't think Zendaya is a particularly good actress. So I think that follows in that pattern as well.
I think she's a good movie star. So I put her in the same category as people like Cameron Diaz. And Cameron Diaz was really good at holding your attention in a commercial blockbuster. Cameron Diaz is charismatic. She lights up the screen. Do I think she has amazing range? No, that's why she didn't go on to win Oscars, right? She didn't have that. And I think Zendaya, I think she can do what she can do when it's in her range, but she's always charismatic. You can't take your eyes off her. I think she's a great movie star.
Oh gosh, I agree. She is stuck in the Disney shtick a little bit, but part of that is having that charm. So I'm with you.
It also pays well. So, she can retire young.
Yeah. They both can. He's got that Spider-Man money, that
know.
Marvel money. My God. Okay, shall we move on to another headline, Sarah?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's discuss Daryl Hannah. Now, some of you youngins might not know who we're talking about. She's the iconic performer who made a name for herself in films like Splash, which I love. It co-stars my man, Tom Hanks. I recommend it. But she's upset because she takes great umbrage with the way she's portrayed on the new Ryan Murphy show, Love Story, which, of course, I think many of you are probably watching it. It seems like everybody is. It depicts the relationship between JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. And it is true that Daryl was romantically involved with JFK before he was with Carolyn. In fact, I believe they had a pretty, maybe not lengthy relationship, but they were pretty into each other.
I think it was pretty long term.
But that's where the resemblance between fictional Daryl and real Daryl seems to end. If you believe Daryl. And to be honest, Sarah, I do. I want to get your thoughts on this in a sec. So she wrote a New York Times op-ed designed to clear her name, which is not something we see actors do or really anybody do very often. In a March 6th piece, we will link it in the show notes, titled, How Can Love Story Get Away with This? She writes, I have generally chosen not to respond to media coverage of me. I have long believed that engaging with distortion often amplifies it, but a recent tragedy exploiting television series about JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette features a character using my name and presents her as me. The choice to portray her as irritating, self-absorbed, whiny, and inappropriate was no accident. I have never used cocaine in my life or hosted cocaine-fueled parties. I have never pressured anyone into marriage. I have never desecrated any family heirloom or intruded upon anyone's private memorial. Whew. Now, this is interesting because all of these things do happen in the show. Like, they desecrate this woman. She is eviscerated.
Yes. It is the least flattering portrayal I've seen in a really long time of a real person in a fictionalized show.
That's exactly what I was going to say. In fact, all of my friends just keep saying to me, oh my God, was Daryl really like that? Oh my God, Daryl Hannah needs to sue. She's hearing that and she's clearly watching it, which I also think is interesting. So listen, it's possible Daryl has no legal recourse for how this series is portraying her. Because here's the thing, you probably noticed this if you've watched many other biopics, they do have disclaimers at the top reminding us it is all fiction and they have taken some liberties. However, when we are portraying real people on screen, what does that disclaimer even matter? Because in this case, I feel like they've really ran pretty damn far. Like, it feels like they've made up quite a lot. And I want to add one other thing. The way that the actress who's playing Daryl Hannah performs her is almost like a real life caricature. It is so dare I say, offensive. Like, Daryl had a way of speaking, has a way of speaking, pardon me. That's definitely a bit cartoonish and unique, but I feel like the way it's portrayed in the show is so amplified. Like, it feels like the intention is to make her into the villain. Sarah, I want to know what you think because I know you've been watching as well. Do you feel like the disclaimers can kind of protect her legacy? Do you feel like Ryan Murphy has it out for Daryl?
So this is an interesting thing about historical fiction because you can just make shit up, right? And then just say, have the disclaimer. But the thing is, it's really hard for the audience to tease out what's real and what's not because some of it's real. She did date JFK, right? That happened. A lot of the facts of the show are true and a lot of them are made up. So you are, in order to preserve the reputation of this person you're portraying, relying on the audience to go and be historical researchers to figure out what actually happened and what didn't, what's made up and what's not. So that's why I know the disclaimer probably protects them legally, but it's still really unfair to someone like Daryl Hannah because you're not going to go, or at least the average person, we are going to do this. The average person is not going to go and tease out what happened and what didn't. The other thing you said, I mean, the portrayal is cartoonish and offensive, and I completely agree. So one thing about Daryl Hannah that it leaves out is she's done a tremendous amount of advocacy for people with autism. She herself was diagnosed with autism as a child. So the way they portray her, right, as this person who can't read the room in a really kind of way that makes her an asshole, I think if you know she's autistic, comes off as very ableist, right? And says she didn't do any of these things. She didn't try to pressure him into marriage. She didn't think that they were getting married when he hadn't proposed yet. She didn't. So in some sense, this might be an ableist portrayal. It's certainly misogynistic. It portrays her as really scheming. Also, yes, the cocaine use, if you didn't use cocaine, suggesting that that's the reason, one of the reasons he broke up with her is really unfair for Daryl Hannah.
Yeah.
But this is a person who actually has done a lot of good for the world, was advocating for children with autism before most other people were. And so I just don't think this is what she deserves. I don't know. She seems like a very sweet, blameless person. And it's just a weird thing to happen to you when you're retired and enjoying sort of your next phase of life.
Oh my God, I totally agree. I feel terrible for her because, yeah, she's also been very quiet. Like, she's not in the spotlight anymore. Leave her alone. I don't even think she needed to be a crucial character. I feel like if they were going to portray her, could have been a quick little moment, but also there's other girlfriends he had, including Sarah Jessica Parker, who you could have, like, given a go, although I'm sure they would have eviscerated her too. Like, I feel like the goal here was to make every other woman in his life seem so awful that by comparison, Carolyn is just a queen. But you didn't need to do that. Carolyn can still come off wonderful if that's the goal. Although I do want to say, I find it ironic, and maybe it's intentional, because Carolyn is the one who was besieged by cocaine rumors at the time. And some people are still bringing it up now because, again, the show has been really interesting in what it's choosing to include and not include. I highly recommend reading about their relationship and reading about them individually on your own. Do your own research because I actually think what really happened is still quite fascinating, but a lot was left out. Not saying that she was a cocaine enthusiast. I'm just saying that's what the rumors were. And I think they got conflated here for Daryl's representation. It's weird.
It is really weird. And I have to say, the stuff that we know happened with John and Carolyn Bessette is a lot more salacious than the stuff that we have any evidence happened with Daryl, right? I mean, brawling in the park. So that's pretty salacious. We didn't need to make Daryl more salacious to make the show interesting. We didn't need to make it
Here's what I
spicier.
wonder, Sarah. I agree. So at this point, while Sarah and I are filming this, there's only a couple of episodes to go. So again, you guys in the future are lucky you know where this goes. I'm very curious how they will wrap up the show because, spoiler alert, these two had a lot of trouble towards the end of their relationship before they tragically passed. And I'm wondering if the show is going to show that because they seem very keen to predict these two as ill-fated lovers and because of what happened to them in the crash. But we'll see. Now, another spoiler alert, Sarah and I are going to talk about JFK and Carolyn next week on the show. So if you'd like us to do a proper, thorough fact check, we're going to do it. So tune in because we'll talk about everything that really happened. But I do want to mention one other thing, Sarah. I don't know if you saw this, but Jack Schlossberg. I don't know how you how do you
I
pronounce
think
that
Schlossberg. I
last
think
name? Schlossberg. So Jack Schlossberg, who is JFK Jr.'s nephew, he has also tweeted about this. He's talked a lot about this, how he's offended by the representation of JFK and this relationship. Ryan Murphy was quite nasty about it. Ryan Murphy responded to his how upset he was, and he said Jack didn't even know them. I was just like, what? That's so disgusting. Jack retorted, actually, I was the ring bearer at the wedding. Like, I knew my Uncle John very well. And I'm so disgusted by the way Ryan Murphy chose to handle this and also did not deny that he has made up quite a lot of what actually happened. So the family is really unhappy, but I suppose that's not shocking. So,
It's really unfortunate timing because, as all of our listeners probably know,
yeah.
Tatiana Schlossberg died. It's awful. It was tragic. She died of cancer. She wrote a brilliant op-ed about it that we've mentioned before. And so they're going through this time where there's this really unflattering portrayal of their family on screen. And I have to say, the portrayal of Caroline Kennedy, JFK Jr.'s sister, I know it's confusing Caroline and Carolyn, but Caroline is the sister. They hired a good actress. Grace Gummer is great, but it's
Oh, Sarah,
also
I can't stand her. I'm sorry.
you
I
can't
think
stand
she's
her? Okay.
awful.
It's not a flattering portrayal. Like it's not.
No,
It's not.
not.
She's not portrayed as evil or scheming, and it's not as bad as what's
No.
happening to Daryl Hannah. But she's being portrayed as just kind of a jerk, just kind of somebody who goes out of her way to be impolite, to make snarky comments. And I have no idea what actually happened at the dinner table, but nor does Ryan Murphy's team. And so they always choose the least charitable choice for Caroline. It does feel like they have some sort of a vendetta, and her daughter just died. Obviously, they didn't know that would happen when they were filming. So part of this is bad timing. But then to go off on her son on social media just feels like you are adding salt to the wound that you created.
God, I so agree. And Caroline is such an interesting character too, because she, I feel like in present day, has experienced extraordinary loss, right? Lost both of her parents in terrible ways, lost her brother, lost her daughter. It's just devastating. And yeah, the portrayal is odd. Like she comes off so stiff and straight laced and boring. Meanwhile, JFK, again, I guess it's for contrast, comes off like this really fun guy who's like a bit bro-y, but he just wants to break the Kennedy tradition and she wants to keep it going. It's like, that's bullshit.
It's well, and the thing is, she was a rebel in her own way, right? She
Yeah.
married somebody who her mother wouldn't have chosen for her, but then made the marriage work so well that her mother kind of came around. And her husband is a genius. I mean, he has won awards for pioneering kind of immersive museum exhibits, right? That we've all been to an immersive museum, and that's thanks to him, right? He was actually a real visionary. And it seems like they had a real emotional and intellectual connection and raised a beautiful family. But that wasn't necessarily what her mom wanted for her. I think her mom probably wanted her to marry someone richer and who wanted to be president. And Caroline didn't do that, right? So I don't know. It's a portrayal that flattens who she was and is really unflattering at a time when she just doesn't deserve this. And as you said, she's been through so much tragedy on a public level. I mean, yes, I understand other people have been through that level of tragedy. Very few of us have been through that level of tragedy, but also had to grieve in public every single time. And that's a lot. That's a huge burden.
I know. I know. It's really interesting. But again, we will talk about it more next week. So tune in, guys. Now, Sarah's got another juicy little headline for us to dive into.
But before that, let's take a quick break, and then we will have what I think is going to be a very interesting discussion. Moving on, one of our favorite men, Sterling K. Brown. Yes, a man so sexy. I watched every episode of This Is Us for him. He sat down for Armchair Expert. He and host Dax Shepard got into a bit of a debate about celebrities putting their kids on social media. We all know that Dax and Kristen Bell don't show their kids' faces on social media. I mean, they will show you their children. They just don't show you their faces. And they do tell lots of personal stories about their kids on talk shows when they have a project to promote, but they don't show their faces. Anyway, Sterling brought his own perspective to the pod saying, quote, "It's interesting because you have two girls, I have two boys, your children are obviously white, my children are black. I feel like the more I put them on social, the safer they are. I was like, any proximity that black boys can have to some sort of celebrity or access or whatnot. I'm trying to make sure they make it home. That's really it." So, Sadaf, do you find it as refreshing as I did to hear someone point out Dax Shepard's tone deafness where his privilege is concerned? And what do you think of Sterling's comments overall?
Oh god, I love anytime someone puts Dax in his place and tells him he might be wrong about something or isn't right about everything. I loved this, and I too just love Sterling, and I thought this was really interesting because honestly, I hadn't thought about it either. It's also not something I guess the average person thinks about. We don't have our children getting photographed by paparazzi. But it's really interesting this idea that recognition for young black children, specifically black boys, is really valuable for his family, and it makes so much sense that it could be a form of protection for them. And also how his fame is innately a barrier for them and a kind of shield. It's so interesting to think about it that way because Dax and Kristen, they really championed this no kids' photos policy,
Mhm.
right? Like it's an actual legal policy now in the States, and they are the two who really pushed for that. And I do think that's fantastic. Like, I think it's weird to take photos of kids who didn't ask to be a part of that
Or to
life.
follow them around.
But
I think the stalking element is the worst part.
yeah, I agree. So I thought this was really great from Sterling. I thought it was interesting. Sarah, what about you?
So I like the different perspective. I also think like I really wish he'd gone further and just said like, "Listen, where's your bright line, dude? Because you talk about your daughters in public, in the public domain. You show us their outfits, right? We know what they were for Halloween. You tell us stories about how your family celebrates holidays, all these things. Where is the line and why is it at a certain place? Why is the line where it is?" Anyway, I just wish more people would actively debate Dax on his show. I'm happy that Sterling challenged him. And I think he did so really well. And I think his point about fame being a protective thing for kids who are more vulnerable to, say, being stopped by the police and being victims of police brutality, I think that that's a really valid point. I mean, I also think that to an extent, obviously, I think the same could be said. And I'm not a black woman. I'm not a mother of black children, but I do think you could say the same thing about black daughters. I don't know if it's just about black
Yeah.
sons. I do think black women are more likely than white women to experience police brutality. So I think he could have said that too. I do always think it's interesting when like boy dads versus girl dads act like it's completely different to to parent one gender over another gender. I've always find that very interesting. And I only have a daughter and I know that I do that sometimes too. So I'm not judging Sterling. I just find that really interesting that we have this bias. We imagine like it's a completely different activity to mother or father somebody
Yeah.
who like a little girl versus little boy. And I don't know. It's interesting
No,
that
it's
that
such a
bias
good
remains.
point. No, we were talking about this yesterday and you mentioned this to me and it didn't even occur to me. And again, maybe it's because I'm not a parent, so I don't come from that perspective, but I think you're totally right. And yeah, I do think it's a boy dad thing. Like I think he got stuck in his perspective of, well, I've only got sons. But there is that fact too that it's often black men who get pulled over by police too. And I think this could be like a little bit of a not I don't want to call it a calling card, but sort of like he said, it gives them access and a pass or not even pass protection. It's that barrier against that shield, which I think is really great. But you are right. Black women are also victims of police brutality quite often. So I think both things remain. And I think it just does, again, complete our ultimate overall goal, which is tell Dax he's a dumbass. And Dax is one of the most tone deaf people. He also lives in such a fucking bubble, man. He was really surprised by this perspective and taken aback. So I was glad. But also, this just proves why it's important to give Black folks, people of color, people who are marginalized a platform because I didn't think about things this way. And now I'm so glad that I've heard this perspective. It changed my thinking a little bit of celebrity and fame and how that can benefit you and your children. So fascinating. So thank you, Sterling. I love you. Dax, I despise you still. And that will never change.
Okay, so speaking of Sterling, it's time to talk TV. So both Sadaf and I are watching Paradise. That is the new show created by Dan Fogelman, starring Sterling K. Brown. It's also starring a lot of your favorites. I mean, it's starring Sarah Shahai has apart. They don't seem to know what to do with her, but she's
our
in
queen.
it. James
Yes.
Marsden plays like a hot president. He plays like a Republican president, but a Republican president you want to fuck. Like, that's good.
He's so pretty. Like, Sarah, I have to like continuously pause and take a moment to appreciate how beautiful that man is. My God. And he hasn't aged.
He's so handsome and so charming. And the way Don Fogelman writes this person, like, it's clearly the vibe he's trying to do is it's like hot George W. Bush, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
this hot dummy who's being manipulated and probably abused by his family. So it's a very charitable interpretation of who George W. Bush was, right? It completely removes culpability, right? And I feel like Dan Fogelman, for whatever reason, I feel like by watching the shows, what you learn most is his psychology. I feel like he has a lot of sympathy for George W. Bush for whatever reason. So he's created this
I agree.
character to kind of rehabilitate him. And this narrative that you associate with him because he has so many things in common, like the ambitious father who's forcing him to be president when he doesn't want to be.
Yes.
And he doesn't seem to understand politics, but when push comes to shove and he has a moral dilemma, if you've seen the show, there is a moment where he gets to make a decision regarding nuclear weapons and he makes the right decision. I mean, listen, George W. Bush was never president during the end of the world, so we have no idea if he would make the moral decision in that situation. But that's what I took from it, that Dan Fogelman actually really likes George W. They probably met at like a rich person activity because George W. Bush is all over those.
I could see it. I also feel like George Bush could be like a This Is Us fan because Dan Fogelman created This Is Us. Am I right about that, Sarah?
Yeah, he created This Is Us.
You did, right?
And this is his new
So
show.
I can see that. Yeah, so that maybe it's also a reclamation or a rewrite because James Marsden's character's son is proving to be a little bit of a maybe vigilante or like he goes a lot more of the progressive route. So maybe it's like a rewrite in that way. Like, George, this is what you could have been.
You could have done this. You could have had your daughters could have been freedom fighters. I don't know.
Not Jenna.
Not Jenna.
those
Not
girls.
Jenna.
No, sorry.
So here's the thing. There's been a lot of controversy over season 2. And if you're going to watch season 2, skip this part, skip ahead, 5 minutes, because we're going to discuss the things that are infuriating.
Spoiler alert.
There's going to be spoilers because it's actually making a lot of people really angry. So this season 2, the show is not mostly in the bunker that we knew from season 1, right? Season 1, there's this bunker. It's this post-apocalyptic situation where you think it's post-apocalyptic. You think pretty much all of humanity has died. Turns out in season 2, that's not true, that there are survivors. We don't know exactly how many, but it seems like there's a significant number of survivors because all we've seen is America, and we've seen lots of people in America, right? Fewer than there were, but still lots of survivors. Anyway, one of the survivors that we get to know in the first episode is this former medical student who drops out, seems to have a lot of mental health problems she's working through. She has severe anxiety, but is very resourceful. And so she survives. Her name is Annie, and she's played by Shailene Woodley. She gets pregnant when this new character named Link, who is this, the linchpin of the season, it would seem. Everyone seems to agree.
Yeah.
We don't know that much about him yet. He might be a time traveler. He's played quite well by Thomas Dorchester, who you might have known from Tell Me Lies, where he was on Tell Me Lies for an arc, and he also played like new Chuck on the reboot of Gossip Girl. Anyway, he's actually British or Scottish, I should say. Doing great. Gives a great American.
He's so good. Yeah.
He's really good. Also, this kid has so much range. I just to prove to myself that he had range because I was very impressed. I'm like, is this all in my head because he's handsome and I think he's a good actor because he's good looking?
He's so hot.
But I forced myself to rewatch one of the episodes of the reboot of Gossip Girl. It was really hard.
I didn't do any of it, so that's huge, Sarah.
I forced myself just to see. That kid has range. He has so much range because he's so sexually slick. And the sex scene he has with Shailene Woodley, which is gorgeous, he's the opposite. He's not slick.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
I do love him. And you and I love Shailene Woodley. I feel like Shailene should have the career that Jennifer Lawrence does. Shailene is just so phenomenal. And she's so good in this. Like, she makes me cry every episode. And the two of them together. So, okay, I gotta say, I watched the first few episodes of the first season last year and I just could not stand it. And I gave up really early. Sarah, you were telling me, like literally a couple of weeks ago, you need to watch the sex scene these two have. Just skip the first season. But I can't. Like, I need to catch up. So I was like, I'm listening to Sarah. I sat down. This has been my obsession for literally the last 2 weeks. Caught up on season 1. Didn't hate it anymore and start to really enjoy it. Got to season 2. I agree. I have some complaints. But this is all thanks to Sarah that I've just zoomed through. Like, I'm obsessed with Paradise right now. And I'm thankful because this is going to sound so over the top, but as someone who just loves a good actor and who just loves watching good acting, it feels like a gift to watch her in this show. She's just so moving and they're so great together. The chemistry is wild. That sex scene is gorgeous.
Stunning. Honestly, it's art. It stands alone. It's fantastic. But the rest of the show, I have to say. So here's the part that gets controversial. The results of the sex scene are very upsetting.
Oh God, Sarah, I'm so upset. I'm so upset.
Very upsetting. And lots of people have talked about this. This is not only coming from me. So Link is supposed to be the smartest person in the world. The only person who can save the world. And the smartest person in the world in this post-apocalyptic world where no one has access to an OR if they need a cesarean doesn't know that when you're having sex with a woman of childbearing age, you should pull out. Like the smartest man in the world. The smartest man in the world. So she gets pregnant because the smartest man in the world doesn't understand how babies are made. So that doesn't work for me. Also, she's supposed to be a doctor. So she should also know how babies are made. I don't understand how this happened. I don't get it. Anyway, so she gets pregnant. It ends up being that she has severe complications that can be treated easily in the modern world if you have access to a C-section. But if you don't, you can literally die. And so Sterling K. Brown shows up. She saves him from a plane crash. She saves the man's life. Saves his life. He's going to die.
Melodramatic.
She saves his life while she's like 8.5 months pregnant. He informs her.
On a horse. She runs in on a horse.
She goes to great lengths, okay? Nurses him back to health for several weeks. And finally.
Wait, sir, can I add one more thing? Because Sterling K. Brown, that's a big man. Yeah. You know, he's all muscle. This girl, almost at the point of giving birth, somehow gets him out of the crash on the horse, takes him home, sets him up. I'm like, girl, in what world?
How does this happen? I know, but if it did, amazing. What commitment to providing this man with healthcare. Yeah. He tells her he's from this bunker where they actually have things like ORs to do a C-section. And she's like, can we go there? And he's like, no, I'm completing my mission first. To be fair to him, his mission is finding his wife. But this woman did just save your life, right? And so he doesn't take her to the bunker first. He doesn't do a detour. Instead, he makes her go on the horse with him on this incredible journey. She knows, because she was a medical student, that she's having these complications and needs an ER and she's dying. And then she does die in childbirth. It's really upsetting. And then Sterling K. Brown just has this bemused look on his face. Like, oh, I didn't know that you were going to die. Childbirth is dangerous, as though he's suddenly stupid too. He's smart enough to know it's dangerous and just doesn't seem to understand the implications of what he's done. And Naomi's walking around with this baby because she's like, okay, get the baby to Link. Here's Link's student card that I randomly have because that's what he gave me.
She even tell him his name because his name is not even on the student card. By the way, he goes through by a nickname. So just like,
my nickname, Link. Anyway, so Sterling K. Brown's got this baby. He's walking around. I'm like, dude, when you see your wife finally, do you think she's going to stay with you after you explain what happened? If you're like, so I crashed in a plane. This wonderful woman saved my life. She was like 9 months pregnant. She still saved my life. Then I told her about the bunker after. She didn't know about it before. And then after I told her about the bunker, she asked, can we go there? Because she was having pregnancy complications. And I said, no. And so she died. So now I've got this baby. And your wife is going to be like, you asshole, I don't love you anymore. Like, why would you do that?
Know.
You've lost your humanity. Like, what the hell?
Sarah, I don't think I even realized she'd expressed that to him because I thought his confusion was that, oh, she just wants to get to the man, the father of her child. But that makes me even more devastated because in the moment as she's dying, she says, I knew this was going to happen. And I was like, oh, shit, I missed something.
Well, she doesn't explicitly say that she knows there are complications. But the truth is, everyone knows that any pregnancy, even if it's a breech baby, you can have public complications, right? That's why it used to be more dangerous to give birth than to go to war. And if you don't have proper medical attention, it still is, right? Like if you were giving birth in a war zone without proper hospitals, it still is that dangerous.
And you're right. Like she knows he has an OR in a hospital.
Exactly.
Like, of course, that's the goal.
Exactly.
But yeah,
and he was a couple years ago at that routine birth that became an emergency. So he knows birth can become an emergency.
Right.
Right. So
right.
I don't think she should have to tell him that. I think he should just know.
You're right.
And he's had 2 kids.
No, you're right. You're right. Which they oddly just keep referencing as the scene goes on and this other birth that he was there for. And I was like, I hate this. I hate this. Sarah, I watched it literally last night and I was sobbing.
I was sobbing too.
I just was so angry. I was going to text you, but I was like, no, we'll have it out on the show. But I just I'm so bothered, especially considering, again, she's giving like an unreal performance. And now we just, that's it. That's fucking it. Like, I don't know. It's interesting too, because things are really altered in terms of how the cast dynamic works after the first season. So another spoiler alert, James Marsden's character in the present timeline is no longer there. There's a couple of characters we've lost. Things really shift. Julianne Nicholson's character as well. So I thought these two would make for a gorgeous little romance that, as I want to use your word because I think that's great, as a linchpin for the season. Like, it added so much heart that the show needed. And it's just gone.
It's completely gone. It's completely gone. Okay. And then here's the thing that a lot of people have been saying. So Dan Fogelman has a pattern of killing off women who are pregnant and giving birth, right? If you saw his horrible movie, Life Itself, Olivia Wilde's character is killed while pregnant, but the baby also survives. And the whole thesis of that movie is that her death is ultimately validated and made worth it because her daughter ends up being happy at some point, right? And then when Shailene Woodley is giving birth, Fool's Rush In is playing, and literally as she's dying and looking at her daughter, the line, "Take my whole life too," comes on, as though she's consenting to death, as though it's worth it and it's valid. And listen, many people love their children so much they die for them, but they shouldn't have to. And this isn't just an post-apocalyptic future in America where women would die in childbirth. There are women dying now in childbirth in America, right? And even more women are dying because of Trump's policies, right? And so what this does is it romanticizes the idea of women dying in childbirth and makes it seem like it's okay. And we should not be romanticizing that. So Dan Fogelman, I think you're really irresponsible. Not only are you kind of trying to rehabilitate Republican presidents like George W. Bush, but you also are romanticizing the idea of women dying in childbirth. And This Is Us, Rebecca almost dies in childbirth as well. The Chrissy Mess character, Kate, almost dies during IVF, right? And so he almost suggests that this is like a noble thing women can and should do to prove their love for their children. So like, end this pattern. She should have lived.
Okay, so I haven't seen the Internet Fury yet because, as I said, I just watched this episode. Like, my heart is still bleeding. So it's great to get this feedback from you because I did see something about the Dan Fogelman pattern. Oh my God, that's awful. I couldn't get through This Is Us. Not even for Sterling, I'm sorry to say, because this man does also he loves a bit of melodrama, and to a degree that I find really difficult to digest. And that's why it was tough for me to get through the first season of Paradise. I was so glad when I did, though, because I really enjoyed it. But now I'm reminded again who the hell I've signed up here for. God damn you, Dan Fogelman. That pattern really fucking disgusts me. And I would like for them to change up the writer's room. I would like for them, listen, typically I don't think fans should have a lot of say on the way a show goes. But in this instance, I think people are making a very good point. First of all, I despise seeing a pregnancy storyline like this because it's almost like you're being punished for having pleasure and for having this moment with this man. Her character also, she spends like years living on her own, which also is hard to wrap your head around. Like, she should have gone mad or something. So it feels like she's just getting punished for that, which is disgusting. And then the fact that she dies in childbirth. Also, the moment when she tells Sterling's character, like, you taking my daughter on is your holy charge, I wanted to gag. I was like, let's not do that. Let's not do that. She had to lose her life for him to have like a holy mission.
It's ridiculous. So people have also said it's basically fridging as well, which is another problematic trope for women. Female characters die so that a man that they're associated with, because I know they're not romantically involved, but that was his best friend in, the post-apocalyptic world, so they can do something heroic, right?
Often queer characters, right?
Yeah. So it's just problematic on so many levels. It did not need to happen. And the weirdest part is apparently the writer's room was debating keeping her around because you've got a star like Shailene Woodley, who's also a great actor. Why wouldn't you just make her a focus of the series, right? Like, she's the star of the outside world, not the star of the non-bunker world. But no, they decided that it would be more powerful. And the reason why was they basically wanted to fridge her. They don't explain it in that terminology, but they basically say that. They're like, they wanted Sterling K. Brown's character Xavier to experience that loss so that it would propel him forward. And like, so she just dies in service of his evolution. And also, the man's already experienced loss. For 3 years, he thought his wife was dead. Does he need to learn what loss feels like? Really?
But also, he lost his partner, he lost the president, so he lost his friends. Like, we don't need more than that.
No.
This is another Dan Fogelman issue, and I think it's one of the problems in a lot of primetime television, this idea that we just need to kind of heap trauma onto our characters in order to maintain the watchability of our content. I so disagree with. Like, there was a time when you could watch a show like this. I guess I think of Lost often when I watch Paradise. It's very similar in some ways. Even Lost didn't take us down that torturous path. Like, Lost was much more calibrated, I think. One recommendation I can give you all, if you haven't already seen it, is Silo on Apple. It's a very similar premise to the point where I feel like Dan may have stolen it a little. And spoiler alert, in season 2, they also leave their bunker. And I do think that's when the storytelling gets confusing. I think it's tricky when you've been able to create a very solid season inside the bunker. For both Paradise and Silo, their second seasons are a little wonky because they leave the bunker. But I do think Silo is superior in its exploration of what this can do for the people. Also, it's just got me wondering, does the US government have a bunker somewhere in the States? Because this is the third media product I've seen. I'm trying to remember, what was that movie that what's her name had? That she did Zero Dark 40, Sarah, and she had that movie.
I
on
forget, but I
Netflix
know what you're
earlier
talking about. And I don't think I've seen the movie, but I've
yeah.
seen clips.
So that had a similar, again, spoiler alert, similar premise that there's a bunker somewhere in the country to protect the president and his ilk. And I'm just dying to know, is that something that's actually happening? It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, we know that they at least have a place. We know that they have a place to take you for safety in the White House itself. Do they have a plan for getting you out of extracting you if there's a true apocalypse? My guess would be yes. Right? I mean, it's kind of like Barack Obama. We don't know. Remember when he basically was like, yeah, aliens are real, and then he had to take it back? So there's a lot of stuff we don't know that the president knows. Like, I feel like get Barack Obama a little bit tipsy. Because on that podcast, when he was relaxed, he already told you about the aliens. Get him a little bit tipsy, and he'll be like, I've got some stories to tell you, okay? Like,
oh my God, I love that because James Marsden's character has a little element of Brock. And there's a scene, I can't remember if it was in the first season, I think it was, where he's like, oh, I thought I was going to discover all these secrets when I got sworn in. And like, for example, are aliens real? And none of it came true. But then I did find out there's an underground city.
Well, I mean, I feel
I love that.
James Marsden is president. Well, I don't think I would agree with his politics. Seems like a good hang, right? Like, that is the thing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, if I became president, I would also be like, so, who killed JFK?
Absolutely.
I know you know. Like, are aliens real? Okay, where's the bunker? And then if they didn't immediately tell me all these things, I would be like, wait, what? Tell me how Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing. Okay, let's go through all of it.
Yes.
And I would also be disappointed if I didn't learn those answers.
I know. Well, listen, long story short, I'm going to keep watching because now this has been my mission for the last 2 weeks. But I'm very, very upset. I feel like Shailene Woodley graced us by coming back to television briefly. I'm mad. I'm really mad. And I hope Dan Fogelman has to own up to this in some fucking way. But God damn it, the show has me trapped for a bit. I don't know if I'll make it to a third season, Sarah, though. What do you think? I think actually the next season is considered the last one, if I'm not wrong.
It's causing me emotional trauma. Like, I almost didn't watch the next episode after Annie died. I almost was like, I'm done.
Well, more trauma to come, right? Like, that's the thing with this show. There's no respite ever. It's a bit much.
I'm hooked because I need to know who Link is. Like, I need to know, is he a time traveler? Is he dimension hopping? Is he one of the little boys? A lot of people think he's one of the little boys from the show. I
didn't even know there was a theory he's a time traveler, sir. That's interesting.
So, yeah, the scientist that Billy kills, but then saves Link because Billy is like, a psychopath, but with a heart of gold. That character.
I was sad when he died, Sarah.
I know, weren't we all? Like, this handsome psychopath. It's like, I can fix him. I can fix him. Yeah, that's what we all thought. We all thought that seeing him. It's like, it's okay.
Okay, it wasn't just me.
No, I think that's how everyone reacts to Billy. I was heartbroken too. But the premise is like scientist, when he knows he's about to die, which I actually think the scientist knows he's about to die because he has time traveled, has said, the kid and I have
Oh my
made great leaps
God.
together. So a lot of people think that means leaps through time, right? And then if you look at the
Oh.
movies and pop culture references, he knows some decades and not others. And I think that aligns with the
True.
decades he's visited versus the decades he hasn't.
Oh my God, actually, wow, sir, you just broken my brain. That's right, because they were really pointed about him not knowing certain references.
Yeah, they were like, you don't know what Jaws is? Here's the thing. I was discussing this with another friend of ours, and I was like, listen, I understand what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to give you clues. He's a time traveler. But if you hook up with a 25-year-old and you make a Jaws reference, he doesn't know what that is, right? Like, that's right. If you're a millennial who's like hooking up with a 25-year-old, which is the premise, he doesn't know what Jaws is. He hasn't seen Jaws.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although even when he said he was 25, just like Shailene, I didn't buy it. That's a grown man right there. But
The actor is
wow,
actually like 30. So
I believe it. Can I add one more thing and then we'll wrap up? If you've stuck with us this long. But I find the Elvis reference fascinating, and I want to talk about this with you because of course we've got Sterling's character's daughter is named Presley because her mother was such a big Elvis fan. And then Annie's character, which I thought was, I mean, listen, I hate the trajectory this season is taking, but it was a really beautiful opening to the season following her character. She takes shelter in Graceland, which is so fun because she happens to be a tour guide there. I loved this. And she turns out to be like an Elvis genius because she's been doing these tours for so long, even before she was a guide there. I think that's interesting. Like, I'm curious what we're trying to establish there, if anything at all. And we do get some Elvis covers throughout the season. And I'm just kind of like, what's going on? Or am I thinking too much of it?
you're not. I think it's a clue. So they tell you that her mother went to Duke. We don't know where Terry went to university. I think they were roommates, and I think they loved Elvis together. But Shailene's mother also had agoraphobia. They imply she had Shailene young. I think she got pregnant probably right after university, probably stopped talking to Terry. It was likely an abusive marriage, or she just wouldn't leave the house. Like, probably there was a moment where she missed something like Terry's wedding because of her agoraphobia. And I think probably as
Whoa.
a tribute to like this important friendship and their shared love of Elvis, she named her daughter Presley. This is my theory. I think they actually knew each other.
Oh, can you imagine? Like, we're at the end of the world and so many people are gone, but yet somehow the connection
And it's
remains.
absurd. It would be absurd if just Sterling K. Brown ends up with the daughter,
But he would.
the
It's
grandbaby of
Dan
his wife's
Fogelman,
best
he
friend. But
would.
that would happen. And then she'll be even more mad. Then I'm like, I'm filing for divorce. Like, you let this
Yeah.
mother die. Like, I would be even more angry. But this is what I think. I think this is a connection that they have. That is my theory, the Elvis connection, because he
There had
says,
to be
Sterling K. Brown is like,
something.
we named our daughter Presley because my wife loved Elvis. I think he says that at some point in season
Yes.
one. Like, he's not the Elvis fan. So
Yes.
who's the Elvis fan, and why is Elvis so important to the show? That, or just Dan Fogelman is just really weird and is just obsessed with Elvis to a degree that makes
I
no sense.
know. Could be. I'll be pissed off if there's no resolution there, but I loved the Graceland feature. That was amazing.
It was phenomenal.
Ah,
It was such a fun place because, yeah, I mean, where would people survive? Probably like it would be the sheer luck
yeah.
of being a tour guide at Graceland. And then you're like, well, there's basically a bunker here.
It was amazing. God, you know what I have to say in conclusion? Justice for Shailene. I want her to have a bigger career. God, I wish that she was still around for the show. But well, on to the next, I guess. Ah,
On to the next. Absolutely.
guys, I think that's this week's episode. Thank you for sticking around for our Paradise Vent. We desperately needed this. If you guys are watching and have thoughts, please email us. We would love to chat about it with you. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week again with a brand new episode. And a reminder, it will be about the Kennedys. So you're going to want to tune in. You can listen to The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear more from me, you can find me at _Stephson on Twitter and at Canada Whore on Instagram. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Instagram at Sahagian Sarah. And if you like this podcast, one thing you can do that will really help us is to rate, review, and subscribe. This will help other listeners find us too. If you'd like us to keep growing, another thing you can do to support us is to go be patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat. We're definitely going to make it worth your while. So thank you for listening.